I'm delighted, obviously, to be here to speak with you this morning. As Brian has said, I just last year took over from John Maloney, but I am indeed myself homegrown, having been with Glanbia for over 20 years. So John Maloney and I really have worked very closely together, particularly in latter years as my responsibility covered finance and strategy. So what I'm going to do with you this morning is, as we look forward to the theme of From Here to Prosperity, which is one that clearly resonates with me taking over the role of Glanbia, but indeed equally what I'd like to see happen within Ireland, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey to explain to you what Glanbia is. We've had a very, very interesting path in our internationalisation, and from those learnings maybe speak about how we take both Glanbia and indeed our contribution to the Ireland economy forward. Firstly, maybe a very brief word on who we are and where we've come from. Our roots are very much in the heartland in the southeast of Ireland. We go back to the 60s and the coming together of various groups of farmers to bring their product to market. And I think it's a testimony very much to the foresight of management back in the years that when quotas came in, for those of you that aren't familiar with the dairy industry, that effectively put a cap on the ceiling, or a ceiling indeed, on what Irish farmers could produce in 1983. And it's a testimony to the foresight of all concerned that Irish dairy organisations such as ourselves, Kerry, recognised that once our volume line was capped, we needed to look internationally. We had been comfortable for years in the export space because, again, lots of you might not know that we produce a lot more milk here than we consume. So over 85% of product in the dairy industry is in fact exported. So from those relatively modest beginnings, if I can get this right, we are now today a very global ingredient and performance nutrition group. From those beginnings, we have grown to over 3 billion of revenue. We have 3 billion market capitalisation listed in London and Dublin. We last year had 215 million of earnings, almost 5,000 employees, and export to over 130 countries. So as you can imagine, it's been an incredibly interesting and exciting journey for all of us that have been involved. Before I look back, I'm going to just give you a little bit potted piece about who we are today, and then I'll give you a little bit about our journey. These two elements of our business actually sit at the core of what has been the growth in the internationalisation of Glanbia. What do we do? Effectively, what we do is we take what is a wonderful natural product, milk, and we convert it into a suite of products. The products you'll all know and love, like butter, cheese, liquid milk. But the particular piece of Glanbia's success has been taking that to the next level. I was very interested in Jerry's comments speaking about food and pharma and where that relationship might travel to, because in our ingredients business, a point of success for us has been harvesting some of those really good nutritional components of milk, be it minerals, products with immune-enhancing capability, whey proteins, and actually developing nutritional and functional solutions for our customers and ultimately consumers. So our global ingredients business is predominantly US-based. In the 90s, we were doing 7,000 tons of cheese in the US. We're now the largest maker of cheddar cheese in the US, doing 400,000 tons. A statistic that often surprises US groupings that we speak to like this, that it's an Irish company that has achieved that. And from that base in our cheese business, we've expanded our ingredient offerings. As I say, high-end nutritional solutions crossing the dairy and non-dairy space. And innovation is a key part of our portfolio. We develop applications, for example, where companies can reduce sugar content in food and increase protein content, thereby fundamentally playing into health trends. A really interesting piece for us moving out of that B2B space in 2008, we moved to the branded side on the right. 600 million of revenue in that business last year. Very nice business and has been a great story for Glanbia. We're very proud of our brands within that business. And like the Irish travelling well to the US, what has been really interesting to us in this space, the US brands have travelled very well internationally. They're considered the top of the tree in terms of quality, efficacy, functionality. So we have 3 very strong brands and we're rolling those out across the globe. The two other business segments that very much equally sit at the core of Glanbia, we have 4 very strategic joint ventures, and I'll speak to those a little bit more later on because one of them is a very interesting part of our business now in Ireland, and we have 2 very solid businesses, 600 million of revenue in Ireland as well. And what this shows you is that as an organisation, as we look to expand, we're unique in terms of our structure. We are now over 40% owned by 16,000 farmers in the southeast of Ireland. And a lot of our development was done by raising debt and having obviously solid relationships with our financiers. And that meant we had to be somewhat creative at times in terms of structure and organisational pieces. And we're very comfortable with the joint venture model. We have, as I say, joint ventures that span from the largest cheese facility in New Mexico, the largest one in the globe, to a consumer business we're building in Nigeria, to the largest mozzarella business in Europe with a very solid partner as well. So looking a little bit to that journey, I guess one of the learnings I've had being with the organisation for over 20 years is that like any road, it isn't always easy. Glanbia was the creation of a merger of Waterford and Avonmore in '97, and we had a few tough years immediately post that. And really we recognised that we had to change our direction. We had to make some very hard calls. We had to close businesses, divest businesses, and fundamentally identified health and nutrition as the area where we wanted to focus. So we categorised that period of 2000 to 2004 as earning the right to grow, because we had to effectively release capital to invest in the areas we wanted to go to the future. So that period, 2004 to 13, then has been a really exciting, and no doubt we'll have further exciting things to do in the future as we executed against that. The big milestones for us in that were, for example, in 2006, going into a green field in the desert in New Mexico to build, as I said, what is now the largest cheese facility in the world, doing 200,000 tonnes of cheese a year. And one of my US colleagues, actually, Jeff Williams from Idaho, that runs the cheese operations, there's a funny story when he was actually, when we determined that Clovis was the location where we were going to build the facility, some of his colleagues actually said to him, where on God's earth is Clovis, New Mexico? And to give you a sense, the story he told was that a pal of his dog had ran away, and 2 days later he could still see him running. So that's Clovis, New Mexico. But we decided, the dairy industry generally, those of you that know it, tends not to be located in Fifth Avenue or exciting locations, but we did change that in 2008, as I said, when we went into the branded space and we started to acquire business in places like California, Florida, and Chicago. So that's been an exciting journey for us. And this has been the manifestation of that journey, that the international element of Glanbia has grown from 16% in 2000 to over 52% of our revenue in 2012, and a far bigger proportion of our profitability. And that's really what the profitability has done. We've fundamentally altered the profile and margin structure of our organisation from a 3% margin business to an 8% margin business, and as you can see, increased the earnings significantly and obviously keep to hope on that trajectory. As the purpose of today's engagement clearly is about that internationalisation, and in 2004 we were in 5 countries, in 2012 we were in 17, and last year we went for broke and went for 29. And that is really about bringing the capabilities that we're very excited about across the piece. As I said, in our performance nutrition business this year, from modest beginnings when we bought the business in 2008, we'll have direct sales infrastructures across 17 countries. Our ingredients business, again, a lot of infrastructures across different global organisations. But the heartbeat of the organisation is indeed in Ireland. And we were delighted to be in a position last year to announce over 200 million of investment. There's a great excitement in the Irish dairy industry, and Brian alluded to it at the outset, and we're very excited to be part of that. 2012 was a very significant year for the Glanbia organisation, when what was our majority shareholder, those 16,000 farmers, 8,000 of which are active farmers today, decided that we would put our largest business in Ireland into a joint venture of both ourselves and our largest shareholder. And that was them really deciding that they wanted Glanbia Plc to very much focus on its strategy of internationalisation, focusing on the areas where we bring great strength, but equally we both wanted to promote the opportunity that is in Ireland. And literally, at these nights, we're out speaking with our supplier base. So we're meeting with a few hundred farmers every night over the recent weeks. And there's fantastic enthusiasm about the opportunity that will come when quotas are eliminated in 2015. And I believe that Ireland has a really positive, sustainable advantage in that regard. And what is that advantage? Well, quite simply, for those of you that don't know dairy very well, all that rain gives us a very high-quality, low-cost, grass-based dairy system. So we're similar to the New Zealanders who took off like a rocket, but when Europe didn't because we had quotas. And when we go to meetings now, it's great for us to see that there's an entire cohort of young, enthusiastic guys and girls who want to take their businesses forward. And it's the first time that the volume cap has been removed for them so they can look forward in terms of that opportunity. And what is that playing into? Well, as we say here on the right, it's fundamentally playing into what is a very strong global demand for dairy. There will be volatility in dairy prices, and we speak to our young farmers and older farmers that volatility hasn't gone away. But dairy is a trade-up item. The population will be over 8 billion by 2025. Over 4 billion of that will be in the developing economy. So China currently has an insatiable demand for milk powders. They struggle in their own local dairy production, and we believe that Ireland can have a big advantaged position in that. And I would have to welcome that government and the department and areas like Enterprise Ireland have recognised that opportunity, and we're having some really interesting conversations, as you would expect, with very large-scale global players as food security and sustainability very much becomes the order of the day. And I think the contribution of agribusiness has been very much recognised. It has a value of about 28 billion to the Irish economy, of which about 20 stays within the Irish economy. It is responsible probably for about 1 in every 8 jobs in the country. And indeed, the plant that we're building in Bellevue in South Kilkenny is the first large-scale dairy facility being built in Ireland in a generation. And that alone will put over $500 million annually into the pockets of our suppliers, directly and indirectly, in the southeast. We're also investing to bring our brands. Hopefully you all know and love the Avonmore, Kilmeaden brands in the Irish retail scene. We're seeking to bring that brand heritage off the island now, because obviously we have a small population here, and we're looking at developing long life milks, again for the Asian market. And we're doing other investments in our agribusiness, where, very exciting on the grain side, linking in with some key brand players in the US. So really what we are about is maximising the value of the inputs that we get from our supplier base, both in Ireland and the US, and ultimately meeting the need of that final consumer, who is at the end of the day looking for a high quality, sustainable, good value food product. And this is it. So in concluding then, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully I've given you a sense of the Glanbia story and where we've come from. We're very excited about the opportunity. Like any road, it won't be without its challenges, but I believe that Glanbia as an organisation, as a team, is well placed with all our stakeholders to drive that forward. The pillars will be very good operational excellence. We're good at running large-scale plants, driving innovation all the time, minding and looking after the quality and strength of our brands. But indeed, as Anne and other speakers have said, it doesn't happen without the people. So there's a great team in Glanbia, and I and the team very much looking forward to taking it to the next phase of prosperity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.